Streetcars came to the Monongahela Valley in 1895 when a small company began operation between Monongahela and New Eagle.
It was a heck of a ride, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I just remember the trolley. I called it the Tunerville Trolley, going this way.
By 1903, with the investment of capital by the Mellon interests, the route was extended to Pittsburgh and in 1910 to Roscoe.
Charleroi line ran from Pittsburgh and came through all the cities in the line. Mont City, Donora, through Charleroi, Dunleavy, Roscoe, Allenport, up the river, and it turned around and come back again.
Of course, there was a lot of trolleys and there's a lot of places to go to ride trolleys, so I mean, it happened around Pittsburgh, and of course you could no way you could cover the Pittsburgh system in a day. It'd take probably 4 or 5 different trips to cover the whole system, if that. And also the West Penn, and the trolleys in Greensburg, and the trolleys are in Wheeling, the trolleys are in Johnstown, Altoona. I mean, there's a lot of places you could go. Cleveland, of course.
From Roscoe was where it started to Pittsburgh, was watching the different people that got on the car as you progressed into Pittsburgh, and the different people that got on as you headed back to Roscoe.
Just like at an airport, people watching.
I'd say it was pretty common for them to ride, especially between towns in the valley.
The last time I rode a trolley, I came home on furlough from the Army. I was drafted in the Army in September 1951. And I had a 3-day pass, and I came home in October. So the only way to get home from Pittsburgh was by the trolley. And I rode the trolley from Pittsburgh to Charleroi, the old Charleroi-Monessen Bridge. And I had called a taxi, and the taxi brought me home the rest of the way.
I had an opportunity to travel with my mother on the streetcar from New Eagle to Charleroi, because she wanted to do some shopping in Charleroi. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind is, as the streetcar approached Charleroi from the north, there were a series of 3 high bridges or high trestles over some deep ravines, and that height scared the living daylights out of me. And I can remember closing my eyes very tightly and telling my mother, "Tell me when we're across the bridge." Because I had a fear that with that height, the streetcar was going to fall off the bridge or something.
I remember when we were first married and we were living in Crafton, and my mother was in the hospital in Monongahela, and they called me and said, "You better come up." So I went to Pittsburgh to get the trolley to Charleroi and had a milkshake. That was the wrong thing to do on the Tunerville trolley. And I became very ill. And the conductor was so dear, he stopped in Castle Shannon, went in a drugstore, got me something to drink to get me to Charleroi. And we got to the hospital, and Mother said, "You don't look so good." And I said, "Well, Mother, I just found out I'm pregnant."
The old trolleys didn't have a front or a back to them. When the conductor rode in the direction they were going, when you got to that end of where you're going, you didn't turn around. The conductor would get out, and he'd go out and switch to the overhead line to the opposite end of the trolley. And he would switch up and go to the controls on the other side, and then he would go the opposite direction.
Well, I had gone with the same gal in college for 3 years. In the senior ball, she said that she couldn't go with me, so I said, "I'll go home." And I had to take the Charleroi streetcar into Pittsburgh. And I met Dorothy on the streetcar. And she was sitting behind a couple that she knew, talking with them. And I got up and went up to ask the conductor, what time do we get in Pittsburgh, which I knew very well. And when I walked back, I was facing her, and I asked her if she minded if I sat beside her. And she said no, and we got to talking, and I found out that her uncle was my boss for 3 years before I went to college. And that's what started it. I went home, talked to my sisters, and I told them I just met the gal I'm going to marry.
Well, I liked the scenery. There was a lot of nice scenery on trolleys. Even today, if you catch a trolley, you see a lot of things you don't see driving in a car.
The fact that you see where you're going instead of looking out the front, that's why I like trolleys better than trains.
It was the convenience. Convenience that stopped at all the little towns and villages and so forth, and some of the cities. That was the only place you stopped unless you had a car.
During the late 1890s and early 1900s, many streetcar companies constructed amusement parks along their lines. This was done primarily to increase ridership on the weekends and to offer a place to visit away from the city centers. There was an amusement park on the Pittsburgh Railway's Charleroi interurban line. This park was called Eldora Amusement Park, and it was located between the towns of Donora and Charleroi. Unlike most other trolley parks, Eldora was not owned by the streetcar company. During the park's lifetime, from 1904 to 1946, literally hundreds of thousands of people came to enjoy the rides and other activities that Eldora Park had to offer.
All I remember is the trolley rides with the boyfriends, and the girlfriends. And when we got to the park, it was just riding the rides. That's all I really remember. It's too far back.
Into the 1950s, the cars faithfully served Valley residents, but by this time the preference for the auto was compelling, and the streetcars ran for the last time in 1953.
After the streetcar line was abandoned in 1953, really missed that form of transportation.
Trolleys were a good thing, I think, because of transportation. People didn't have to ride cars as much, and like in Europe, Europe in different places, they still have the trolleys. Relieves all the traffic, and people can go back and forth to their destination very easily.
I really wish that streetcars would come back as a major choice for transportation.
I'd like to find the one that I met her on.
Buses are nice, but those trolleys are fun.